The fourth paragraph is about being careful that we're not fooling ourselves into choosing life patterns that we don't actually want. So some of the time we make a plan that on paper looks great. We're going to get our work done, we're going to get enough sleep, things are going to work out well. And it works well for a while, but then something comes up. We weren't expecting it, and we feel like we have to pull an all-nighter. A few nights later, something similar. Oh, that's really important. I'm going to have to stay up however long it takes on that. It's 5 o'clock before we finally get a little bit more sleep. And the next night, something similar. A few nights later, something similar. Now, we need to be careful when this starts happening, when these kind of snowballs of exceptions happen. Are they really still exceptions? Or has this actually become our real pattern, our real normal? And if that's not the pattern you want, then you have to ask yourself, what can you do about that? So maybe some of these things that are coming up aren't really quite as important as we think they are. Maybe some of them really are, but some of them maybe we can say, okay, this isn't going to go quite as well as I hoped, and I'm just going to get some more rest tonight. Or maybe you can look more carefully at those hours between 9 in the morning and 10 at night, and if you make some adjustments there, maybe you won't as often be in the position of feeling like you need to pull an all-nighter. However it is, this kind of honest evaluation, saying, my pattern is not my plan, my pattern is what I'm actually doing, and what can I do about it? And this brings us to the fifth paragraph. Two skills: avoiding imbalance, managing imbalance. Now, when a lot of people think about balance, they're thinking about static balance. So imagine a kid building a huge tower of blocks, and each block has to be in just the right place so the whole thing doesn't fall down. This relates most closely to this first skill of avoiding imbalance, where we make a plan, we get to know our own capacities and limitations to say what's doable for me, what's not. So hopefully we come up with a plan that at least has some chance of more or less succeeding, as opposed to a plan that's just unrealistic and doomed from the start. Now, it'd be really nice if we could just make this plan and then sail through and have it work beautifully, but that's not the real world. It's not going to work out that way. There's always going to be something that comes up, and it's just like, okay, this time I do need to pull the all-nighter, this week I have to skip the gym, whatever it is. Those things are going to happen. And when that happens, if all we have is a static model of balance, that's not going to get us that far. We need to have a dynamic understanding of balance, and that's what you get when you ride a bicycle. So if you think about riding a bicycle, you're almost constantly moving those handlebars very gently back and forth. Probably a lot of the time it's just unconscious if you're basically going straight. Why is that? It's for balance. It's because you are hardly ever perfectly balanced right above, with your center of gravity right above those wheels, just perfectly lined up. Most of the time you're either a little off this way, you're a little off this way, and you're going back and forth. Now, you are occasionally actually perfectly balanced, but it's only for a split second. As you move from one side over to the other and make the correction, you move through that balance point for just a moment. That's dynamic balance. Now, if you stayed too long on one side, you'd eventually fall over. You have to keep moving. You don't have something that would work in static balance, but it does work actually much more stably and successfully. And that's what this second skill looks like when we're talking about managing imbalance. So what does this look like if we're talking about time management and what it's like to be a college student? Well, there's some time when you really have to go over to this side, and there's something that really is a bigger assignment, or you just didn't expect something that got thrown your way, and you just have to put in those extra efforts. You get somewhat out of balance. That's gonna happen. But then, just like the bicyclist, after you have that, steer back over to the other side. You're gonna need some time that compensates for that. So maybe you get an extra long night of sleep. Maybe you go for an extra long run, or go for a movie with your friends. Whatever it is, you go for something special that really recharges your battery and compensates. So you're over here on the wellness side after having been over here for a while. And as you learn how this works, you start to learn things like, okay, how seriously of an imbalance is this toward work? If it's serious, I'd better move back in the other direction pretty quickly. Or if you're just slightly over here on this side, you might actually be able to hang out there without a problem for a while before you gradually move back and spend a little bit of time just a little bit off to the wellness side of that balance point. Now, some people are going to say, yeah, that sounds great. I want to do that. I'm totally on board. But if you look at what they're doing, they're actually only willing to be unbalanced on one side. They're willing to go over here and do more work and have those high intensity times. But when it comes to making that correction, their idea of a correction is just to go right back to that point of balance from their ideal plan, where they're saying, yeah, I'm getting basically enough, but kind of just enough, and it's sustainable, but it's okay. They're not willing to go to this place where they're really recharging themselves and taking care of themselves. Why? Because it's scary, because they've got kind of this white knuckle grip, this, frankly, an unhealthy inner kind of attachment to those goals. Now, if you're one of those people, I've got some good news for you, and that is that there's something relatively easy you can do to help with that, and that is just force yourself. Force yourself to go over here. Take that extra sleep. Get that extra exercise, whatever it is. Make yourself do it. You know, some people have to force themselves to work harder. Some people have to force themselves to take care of themselves. But if you do that, if you just make that decision, it's going to help you start to release that white knuckle grip you've got on those goals. And one of the really nice things is that it's really a win-win situation. So you're helping yourself release that unhealthy attachment. You're helping yourself to be more healthy, for sure. And in the long run, that path is going to be the surer path to getting to your goals.